Welcome back to Destination Pro Wrestling. I'm your boy Ango, and today we have a couple different news stories, some very interesting ones. We now know a few NXT superstars have made their debut at the AEW Dark tapings in Universal Studios. It is now the AEW Dark Zone, formerly known as the Impact Zone. So some very interesting names on that list, what it may mean for the long term. We also have a little bit of things to address. Jonathan Coachman, former WWE commentator, on-air personality, went to ESPN, came back to WWE. He had some very interesting comments about Corey Graves not wanting him there, the reason why he left, why he won't do business with WWE anymore. Very telling stuff. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about ROH and WWE working together, because there's somebody at ROH who wants it to happen. And with so much talk about the Forbidden Door, I felt like it would be an appropriate time to talk about the possibility. But before we could get to all of that good stuff, if you guys want to support the channel, the best way to do so is by clicking that subscribe button, ringing the bell. This way you get notified on all of the latest content. And, I think this format of including multiple stories is pretty cool. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. But nonetheless, Jonathan Coachman, you guys know who he is. Legendary commentator. Made a name for himself in WWE, more in particular during like the Attitude Era, Ruthless Aggression era. Nonetheless, everybody remembers just a few years ago, Jonathan Coachman came back to WWE. He left ESPN, came back to WWE, and a lot of people were kind of blown away by the fact that it wasn't necessarily a long-term scenario. So basically, he came out in a new interview, and he pretty much buried the WWE, this is very, very telling stuff. Something I want to read specifically. He said he was really unhappy, and he'll never do business with them again. He goes on to say, he just didn't want me there. This is in reference to Corey Graves. You could tell by the things he would say. There was certainly a complete lack of respect for me being a veteran, for me having the time at ESPN. I certainly never walked in and said, I'm taking this over. This is my space. I never did that. You could ask anybody. So every single week, it just got more and more difficult to work with him, and it was clear that he wanted Renee Young because they were very good friends. So yeah, Jonathan Coachman pretty much goes on to say at this stage of the game, like, there was no chemistry there. He felt like it wasn't working out. He felt like Corey Graves was very difficult to work with. If you guys don't remember, when Jonathan Coachman left WWE, he was replaced full-time by Renee Young. And that also gained a lot of criticism, too, for whatever odd reason. Looking back, I think that's definitely foolish. But Jonathan Coachman mentioned something about not getting paid for his work in XFL. And he really just has no plans to ever go back to work with Vince McMahon. He has no plans to work with WWE or anything affiliated with WWE. And to be honest, I don't think that's a bad decision to make, because Jonathan Coachman, if you guys know anything about him, he is really talented at what he does. He did a really good job at ESPN throughout the years, and then, of course, he does some commentary and stuff like that for golf. The guy is everything you would ask for from a sports broadcaster. It sucks, because I think Jonathan Coachman would be really, really good in WWE, especially when I listen to Monday Night Raw. I'm not the biggest fan of Corey Graves. He is everything that WWE wants him to be, and I think Jonathan Coachman was like a little bit different. But nonetheless, it's very interesting hearing these comments, because when somebody like Jonathan Coachman, who is a longtime veteran, he's always been pretty respectful, and he's never really been outspoken about WWE. But to hear that he wasn't paid for his work in the XFL, to hear that Vince McMahon didn't pay him, or to hear that Corey Graves didn't want him there, it's just quite shocking, because that's not the type of workplace culture, in my opinion, that would be acceptable. So just very interesting stuff coming from Coachman, but, ultimately I want to know what you guys think, so let me know. Story number 2, ROH working with WWE. Kenny King, ROH superstar, right? Kenny King, former guy in the Impact Wrestling Company, went back to ROH. He's always been a great talent. He came out basically in a recent interview saying that he wants to see ROH and WWE work together, because they are the two companies who have not opened the Forbidden Door. So this is obviously in response to the fact that AEW, New Japan, and Impact and NWA, they're all working together. While there has been no confirmation from WWE or ROH working together, I found this to be a very interesting topic, because WWE, I think they definitely want some buzz. I think they definitely want, the mainstream media and the mainstream attention. But when you look at what the NXT product is and what it may become, I've always found it pretty interesting that WWE doesn't do some sort of talent exchange with some sort of company. And we knew that WWE was pretty close to doing this with New Japan, mainly because of the whole Bryan Danielson, Daniel Bryan situation. But if I'm WWE, I really think Kenny King is onto something here. And I think WWE and ROH working together would be pretty cool. It's not like they're oblivious to each other. A lot of guys in WWE were former ROH talent. There's a lot of people in the ROH company. Sinclair Broadcasting has a shit ton of money as well. While ROH may not be the most popular program in today's world of wrestling, they are one of the main staples, especially when you look at guys like Tyler Black, right? Seth Rollins. Like, there is a lot of people in WWE whose history comes from ROH, and I think this could be a really, really cool way to get wrestlers in WWE excited, especially when you hear talks of Kevin Owens going to AEW after his contract, whatever it may be. I'm not saying WWE has to broadcast ROH, but at some point, Kenny King mentioned in this interview something about Bobby Lashley being involved, and like you could just tell there's quite a bit of talent that would be really cool. And then there's some really cool tag teams in ROH, and then you have the New Day. I think if I'm WWE, this would be a really, really cool way to kind of gain some respect from the internet wrestling fans. Obviously, WWE's main thing is money, so I'm not sure how this makes them money, but I do think from a wrestling fan perspective, it would be pretty cool. Last story for the day. AEW Dark tapings at Universal Studios at the AEW Dark Zone, formerly known as the Impact Zone. Really, really cool stuff. There was a lot of great things that were being said about this taping, but one thing I really, really enjoyed to hear was the fact that former NXT superstars did make an appearance. They did debut for AEW, and it didn't take really long, as especially with some of these guys just recently being released. I like the fact that AEW is trying to do something, with former NXT superstars. These people are definitely not on the name scale of Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt, but at the end of the day, these are all talented individuals. They all came from somewhere outside of WWE prior. So if you guys didn't know, Adrian Jaoud, he's the guy who's in the picture. He was actually on Raw as well during Raw Underground. He tag teamed with Cesar Bononi. A lot of people actually forget that Cesar was also in NXT, so that is something to keep in mind. Anthony Henry, Anthony Green, and Kurt Stallion also made their debut for AEW Dark. So 4 names right there, former NXT superstars that actually debuted at AEW Dark. This was taking place in Orlando, which would make sense because a lot of these guys, if any, all of them probably relocated to Orlando when NXT was in Full Sail. But I like that AEW Dark is now taking place at the Universal Studios. I think the pictures that I'm seeing online are really, really great. But not only that, it just looks like AEW is kind of going back to basics. And I think they're definitely taking inspiration from Full Sail and, NXT Full Sail, and then, of course, Impact when they were a studio show. I like studio show wrestling. I like it when it's in a smaller venue like this. The crowd isn't that big, but it's pretty intimate. It's simplified. It's not overly produced. It's just some good storylines and some good wrestling. And AEW Dark has been doing a good job of providing a job to indie wrestlers, especially when they were impacted by the pandemic. Which of these 4 people will actually be signed to a deal? I guess we really don't know just yet. Kurt Stallion and Anthony Green, very interesting to see them. Anthony Henry is somebody I think that's really talented, but it's really interesting to see him because I didn't know if he would actually go anywhere else outside of WWE. I thought maybe the indie scene would be the only place. And then Adrian Jaoud is somebody I think that's done a really, really good job while in WWE, but just never really given the chance. So 3 of these names are 205 Live staples. Adrian Jaoud had a little bit of main roster success, if you want to call it that. So nonetheless, AEW's making moves. Whether or not they sign him will be interesting. But I want to know what you guys think in the comments section down below. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're a new subscriber, whatever it may be, you guys are incredible. Destination PW continues to grow every single day. So don't forget, if you guys are new here, go ahead and click that subscribe button, ring the bell, and don't forget to join us on Discord. It would be greatly appreciated. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.